Have you ever stopped to think about history's most unlikely heroes? Today, we uncover a hidden gem of history, a story so strange, it's almost hard to believe. Let's rewind back to the 19th century in France, to the twisting, slimy underbelly of Paris, the sewers. And surprisingly, this underground world is not just a symbol of the city's innovation. It became the setting for a remarkable, yet almost forgotten, turning point in military history. Yes, we're talking about rats, espionage, and a clever code that baffled entire armies. Let's set the stage. By the mid-1800s, Paris had undergone a transformation. The sprawling sewer system, masterminded by engineer Eugène Belgrand and supported by Baron Haussmann, turned the city into a marvel of modern urban planning. While sewer systems might not sound romantic, they were revolutionary at the time, the arteries of a living, breathing metropolis. But few could have guessed that, within these tunnels, a network of rats would find themselves entangled in the machinations of war. The Crimean War, fought from 1853 to 1856, was rife with old and new tactics as countries clashed for power and alliances. The French military intelligence was frantically looking for ways to outsmart their opponents, the fearsome Russian forces. They needed communication that was fast, reliable, and above all, unbreakable. Enter the sewer rats. You see, rats had a reputation for being uncanny navigators. They knew the sewers like the back of their tiny clawed paws. This made them experts in quickly traversing the sprawling labyrinths beneath Paris. A zoologist, Dr. Pierre Vaillant, discovered something remarkable. These sewer rats could memorize complex paths after only slight exposure. If they could be trained to deliver messages using these underground networks, they would be both faster and harder to intercept than above-ground messengers. But let's take this story up a notch. The messages weren't ordinary notes scribbled on parchment. Oh no! Military scientists devised an ingenious system of codes written in invisible ink. The ink was derived from a chemical agent that became legible only when exposed to a specific type of gas. This meant that even if one of these rat messengers was intercepted by an enemy spy, the content of their messages would remain a mystery. Training began in earnest. The rats were conditioned using food rewards and slight electric taps. Once they mastered their assigned paths, the French military equipped them with tiny pouches strapped to their backs. While challenging, this training went faster than anyone had anticipated. Dr. Vaillant even claimed that some rats developed such loyalty to their tasks that they would return to base once they completed a delivery. His observation? These weren't mere pests, they had personalities. Now, picture this: 10 rats, each with crucial intelligence strapped to their backs, scurrying beneath the cobbled streets of Paris. Above ground, diplomats and spies were clashing, but below their feet, a different kind of espionage was unfolding. And here's where it gets more interesting. This clever system did not go unnoticed. A spy from Britain, the British were technically allies, but always kept a wary eye on the French. Posing as a gardener named Henry Jones, infiltrated the testing zone. Jones was astonished by what he saw during one of these secret rat training sessions. But here's the kicker. He was technologically stumped. Even though he captured several rats, their tiny messages remained indecipherable in the absence of that special chemical gas. Fearing that the French were developing entirely new methods of covert strategy, he reported back to British intelligence. This incident sparked a ripple effect, leading to a race across Europe for clandestine innovation. Cryptology, espionage, and even psychology started to intertwine as military sciences. Entire nations began questioning what unusual tactics could exploit hidden systems within cities. While the rat code system was kept operational and surprisingly effective, its secrets weren't destined to remain buried forever. A bitter winter in 1855 threw a wrench into operations. Cold temperatures drove rats to hibernate more than expected, disrupting communications. Frustrated generals reluctantly turned to human couriers until spring could revive their rodent allies. By then, word of the French experiments began leaking further. But perhaps the most astonishing detail of this forgotten chapter is that it laid groundwork for what we call modern cryptography. The French methodical use of encoded messages, combined with unpredictable delivery systems, inspired deeper studies into data security, centuries before computers. In the years after the Crimean War, rats faded from military service, but their legacy persisted as scientists considered the broader implications of alternative intelligence strategies. Dr. Vaillant's efforts would later be hailed as ahead of his time. Though it took decades for his work to gain proper recognition, certain aspects of his findings became useful in urban planning and, somewhat indirectly, cybernetics. Today, the Paris sewers remain famous for tours, movies, and even novels, but few remember that they were once an experimental battleground. Would you have imagined that rats, often regarded with disdain, played a pivotal role in altering the strategies of superpowers? It's a reminder of history's uncanny twists. This fascinating, yet bizarre footnote in history reveals an incredible truth. Intelligence, innovation, and yes, rats can leave an indelible mark on the world. Who knows what's crawling or scurrying through modern systems of espionage? Perhaps, just as it was centuries ago, the answers lie hidden in plain sight. And that, dear viewer, is why it's worth digging through layers of forgotten history to uncover these mind-boggling gems of knowledge.